And moving on now, Google Earth seems to have landed itself in trouble after changing the international border, as it has put Jammu and Kashmir and Arunachal Pradesh as disputed territories. In fact, my colleague Akshita joins us with all the latest on this front. Well, Akshita, we are understanding that you are accessing Google Earth even as we speak. Tell us what exactly is the change that has been put forth by the search engine giant.
Right, Nishita, what we have to keep in mind, of course, is the fact that Google Earth, while it is a global app, does in fact change the map for each country to ensure that it is diplomatic and politically viable at the same time, keeping in mind what the government says about each country's map. Now, you go along that definition and you look at this particular map. What I'm showing you right now is, in fact, the Google Earth map of India. Now, you look at this and you see that it's all fine. It marks out the boundaries just perfectly as the Indian map states. You zoom in, Nishita, and if I actually first show you the Jammu and Kashmir area, now the entire red line in fact means that these are disputed boundaries. So it's given, of course, that these areas, this is of course the Pak occupied Kashmir, and this side, of course, we all know is where the Chinese incursions have taken place. So it's considered that along this line, which is where the line of control is, after this is completely Indian territory. So why is there a red line here is the question. Why has Google Earth gone ahead and marked this entire area as disputed territory when quite simply Srinagar is located here? We've got this area completely boxed as India. There's no question of a legal fight. There's no question of any sort of incursions in this particular area. There's no doubt that Google Earth is pretty much asking for trouble, calling for a political battle of sorts, when it goes ahead and marks this entire area, Nishita. So what that literally means, according to Google Earth's definition, is that India's boundaries start below Jammu and Kashmir, and the state of Jammu and Kashmir just does not belong to the country. This is not the only controversy. Let me also show you another part, of course. This is Arunachal Pradesh as well. Now, we do know, of course, there's no denying the fact that Arunachal Pradesh is also disputed land. But what we have to keep in mind is that it's along this front, which is, of course, the outer boundary of the state, which is where the Chinese incursions are taking place. There is a lot of tension along that front. But why have they marked the entire state is a question only they can answer. They marked the entire state as disputed land when there is no question about this area, Nishita. There are elections taking place. It's considered to be a part of India. So why have they marked this entire area? Along that line, if you actually look at it, there are several places which they have marked out, of course, near Bhutan, near the Himalayas, which is where there have been reports of Chinese camps. But similarly, there is a lot of questions being raised on the Jammu and Kashmir as well as Arunachal Pradesh front. Now, when we talk about Google Earth as such, they have stated in the past that they have in fact stirred sentiments in different countries over their boundaries. The fact that they mark out disputed land, they mark out places which have a provisional treaty, which is why also you see that the line of control is an orange line, proving that there is a treaty in place. So when they have gone ahead and recognized that, why have they marked out the entire state as being a part of disputed land when this is definitely part of India? It's been recognized by international organizations as well. It's almost like they're quoting and asking for trouble there, Nishita, and trying to stir some sort of a battle. They've stated in the past, after there was a war of sorts over their maps, that they do not plan or intend to stir any sort of battle, that they stick to what the government needs. Now, with regards to India alone, this map is what we can view here. In China, if you look at it, Arunachal Pradesh comes as part of southern Tibet. So they ensure that they go ahead and do not stir emotions. So what's the meaning of this map is definitely a question everyone's going to be asking, and there's no doubt that people are going to be asking a lot of tough questions. It's come up in the past, Nishita. They have asked Google Earth as to the map of India, and they went on to state that this is not anything personal. It's a professional map. What they believe is based on what international organizations state. It's based on what the perception of the entire world is, and there's no question there are disputes along that front, along the outer border. But what they've done is marking the inner border, and that is where the question arises. Now, if you actually look at it, Nishita, there are some other parts out here as well as here where they've marked out the area. So why is it that they haven't done the same in these areas? If they do believe that it is bordered, if it is a disputed border along this line, why did they mark it out fully instead of just that particular area is the question. Why have they stated that entire Jammu and Kashmir is under a dispute? We all know that Kashmir has been a bone of contention for so long among different countries, China, Pakistan and India. India. It is a very emotional subject. Keeping that in mind, keeping in mind the fact that Google Earth states that it's trying to ensure it doesn't stir up emotions, why would they go ahead and put out this map? But of course, if you actually look at the cartographer for Google Earth, he goes on to quite clearly state that they do not want to stir any emotions. So what is the meaning of that map is something only they can answer, considering this is only India specific, Nishchita.
Well, it's definitely worrying days for Modi Sarkar. The BJP-led NDA government has come under severe flack over the increase in petrol and diesel prices. This comes barely a week after railway fare were hiked by 14%, and the onions are also causing a big worry to the people across the country. Modi Sarkar, which had come in with the promise of Achhe Din Aayenge, criticizing the then UPA government for its inability to control price rise, its inability to control inflation. Modi Sarkar came in with a lot of promises and also came in with a lot of expectations and dreams on their shoulders. But now it looks like ever since the NDA has come to power, we have seen price hikes from different sectors, from different crucial sectors, whether it is the petrol, diesel, and now LPG price hike, or the rail fare hike, which is by almost a steep 14.2%. And onions are also seeing the threat of rising to almost 100 rupees per kg, unable to control food inflation, fuel price rise, and now transportation costs also getting higher. Modi Sarkar has surely come in to a lot of flack. And well, as the repercussion of the same, the Youth Congress of Bengaluru is staging a protest. Today, they staged a protest against the government's decision to hike fuel prices. They wore masks of Arun Jaitley, Dharmendra Pradhan, and other BJP leaders, including Narendra Modi, as part of the symbolic protest. And meanwhile, the hike in fuel prices has sparked off an uproar across the nation. The Samajwadi Party workers staged a unique protest in Varanasi, which is Modi's constituency in Uttar Pradesh, condemning the hike in fuel prices, including petrol, diesel and LPG. They performed a funeral of a bike, claiming that the common man will no longer be able to use motor vehicles for transport due to the hike in fuel prices. They held several placards protesting and questioning Modi. They asked if there were the Achhe Din that Modi had promised the nation. But in fact, these were the two protests that came to light today from Bengaluru as well as Varanasi, where protesters from different political parties, more obviously Congress and Samajwadi Party, took to the streets, held up placards, held symbolic protests to protest against the NDA government for its inability to control price rise.
BJP!